Hello everyone and welcome to the Belt and Road Face to Face.
Those are the markets in developing states, and also Chinese banks would have very limited presence. So that's where we think that we can add value.
They need to send those transactions back to Pakistan. Not only those business community, even the Pakistani professionals.
The difference between Beijing and Urumqi would actually be in that the different client base.
Recently, Pakistan's largest commercial bank, Habib Bank Limited, became the first Pakistani bank to be granted a branch banking license in China's capital city, Beijing. Upon commencement of business, the Beijing branch will be HBL's second branch in China, as HBL already has a branch with RMB business license in the city of Urumqi, Xinjiang. HBL is the first and only bank from Pakistan and one of the three banks from the South Asia and MENA region to offer end-to-end RMB intermediation in China. Habib Bank is already the largest executor of CPEC-related financing in Pakistan and is gradually expanding its business in China with the ambition to make it second home market.
So why did HBL choose Beijing as the second city to China to establish its branch, and what are the most popular or most distinctive financial services in HBL Urumqi branch? So Ms. Cheng, let's come to you first.
I think the reason why the bank would want to look at Beijing as the second branch set up in China is actually closely connected with our vision of trying to be the bank of relevance. Because when we come to China, the idea that what we want to serve is the outbound business from China to not only to Pakistan, but also to Belt and Road countries wherever HBL has global presence. So if you were to look at a lot of those countries, those are the markets in developing states, and also Chinese banks would have very limited presence. So that's where we think that we can add value by having our global reach and also working closely with the Chinese banks by leveraging on their financing capabilities. So Beijing being what we call in Chinese headquarter economy. So this is the city where a lot of these big customers who are doing projects and investments in BRI countries, including Pakistan, are headquartered. Okay. So this gives us a very close interaction opportunities of working with them.
And and further, like the Urumqi branch has been there for a while. Can you talk a bit about what are the financial services being offered in Urumqi, and also whether the Beijing branch would have similar services?
Yeah, I think Urumqi is obviously the first branch of the bank, actually for all the Pakistani banks. That is the first branch operation set up in domestic China market. In terms of products and services, now we cater for both foreign currency business and RMB business. The difference between Beijing and Urumqi would actually be in that the different client base. As I just mentioned, that in Beijing we will actually be looking at some of the large corporates who are doing projects and investment in Pakistan and other BRI countries, where there's an overlap with our global reach, our global presence.
But Dr. Sajid, you are an expat. You're at home in Beijing actually for many years. How do you?
17 years. Yeah.
For 17 years. Okay. So I can say you're a Beijinger basically. How does the establishment of a branch of a Pakistani bank like HBL in Beijing affect your life personally?
Yes, it's really an amazing and exciting news, not only for me and even for all Pakistani community in Beijing. There was like a huge demand of the Pakistani community as well as the Chinese companies who are doing projects, in particular with respect to the CPEC projects, that they want to have a kind of the financial institution, like a kind of a bank branch, where the two countries can deal with the financial transactions.
Yeah.
And I think this is really a great initiative by the HBL, because like, as you mentioned, that HBL is the greater executor of the CPEC financial services. And it was really a demand for the Pakistani community here, because there are a lot of Pakistani business community working in Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, all around China, even in that and Shandong area even. And they need to to send those transactions back to Pakistan. Not only those business community, even the Pakistani professionals. There are lots of people there working in business in different sectors of IT and education and lots of things. I know them, and they need to send their earnings back to their families home. In fact,
they need to buy houses back in Pakistan.
I mean, lots of things. I invested. I need to invest. I can send money back to my country. In different projects. So the thing is, there was no actual platform for that purpose. But the people they're probably using the Western Unions. They're using indirect ways of, like, I know someone Chinese person, I give them money and they give to like kind of Hyundai systems, you know.
Do you recommend that as a banker?
Illegal system.
Is that illegal? Okay.
I think eventually it has to be documented.
It has to be
documented. Yeah.
But the point is, like, I sent recently, I tell you one thing, a big heavy amount in Pakistan, and through China Construction Bank. And because I have legal documents about the taxation systems, about the salary structures and everything.
Right.
And they charge only around 200 something RMB. And within the third or fourth day, the amount was transferred in my Pakistani bank account in one of the banks there. So it was safe. It's secure and it's legal.
You've previously talked about in the Belt and Road Cooperation how between Pakistani and Chinese financial institutes, third-party market cooperations are also possible, right?
Yes.
And especially in areas such as green finance, financial technology, capital market businesses, etc. So can you talk about how the establishment of the Beijing office specifically, I mean, the presence is important, so you talk about how other Belt and Road countries can benefit from HBL's presence here, but how will that actually be implemented, if you can get into that a bit?
Yeah, I think upon commencement of the Beijing branch, it becomes a banking operational unit. So that will give us a lot of access to, to enable us and talk more solidly with the Chinese counterparts. When we talk about BRI, I think it is a common understanding, even with the Chinese counterparts, be it the Chinese corporate or Chinese banks and FIs, that Pakistan has been very successful in setting up successful examples, how BRI projects should be implemented. So we also wanted to demonstrate that whatever we want to work with them with the third country market is actually derived from how we work together in Pakistan market. So for example, co-financing on some of the projects in Pakistan, like now we are working closely with the Chinese banks and FIs, and including the biggest Chinese investment bank on the debt issuance of Pakistan government Pana bond issuance in China. So these are the things that we wanted to set successful examples that this has been done, and also expanding the alternatives of the project financing. For example, traditionally it has been just syndicate loans that we would do together, but now with the exploring of the capital markets, issuance of the bond, particularly with some of the green element projects. We all know that China now is almost becoming the biggest green bond issuance market. So this would actually open the doors for more possibilities, and that will eventually benefit the entities from Pakistan. Because when you have more options, actually your cost will also be brought down. So I think that would be the thing that we want to work very closely as a branch with the Chinese counterparts. In terms of the third market collaboration, we've already set a proper level of confidence with the Chinese banks that we can get projects successfully done in Pakistan, in the third country where we have over decades of presence in that countries. This can be just copy pasted, and we leverage our resources, our market expertise there, and we can look at different options of serving sometimes their customers of going broad. Yeah, they don't have branch, yes, use HBL's network.
The good thing is, with respect to CPEC, if you're talking about, in Pakistan there are already 3 international currencies, the companies they're dealing with. That is US dollar, the British pound, and the euro. The RMB face-to-face is going to be like the fourth one that's introducing. And I personally believe that with respect to the CPEC and through the BRI, there's a huge potential between the Chinese and the Pakistani banking sector and the financial market And I wonder, the Pakistani banking system is really strong in Pakistan in particular. But the thing is that in order to open the branch in China, we do have like 6 branches, the liaison offices, not branches called, the
Representative
offices
Representative
from Pakistan. But HBL is only the first one. Is going to open their first branch, because I heard about there's a lot of like a kind of a lot of things that you have to complete, the documentation, the liquid assets, and all these kind of things that you have to show. And that's the reason in Beijing you will find out very few international banks branches here. There are very few international branches. So I'm very excited and happy about this, that they are doing with this kind of thing.
Right.
And of course, the Pakistani banking sectors and the Chinese entrepreneurs, they are working the Pakistan and the Chinese banking services combined together. It's really a great beneficial for both of the countries.
No matter how much you spend and invest in the construction industry or in the real estate, it has a positive impact on the upstream and downstream industry.
A lot of developing areas out of the cities where there are lots of housing schemes. If you look at the newspapers, if you look at the television advertisements, there are a bunch of advertisements everywhere around, and people, they are investing.
I think the message is very clear to the market that the government wants to grow the construction industry.
Hello everyone, you're watching the Belt and Road Face to Face, and we're about to enter the second part of our program, Figure.
State Bank of Pakistan has announced the government of Pakistan's markup subsidy for affordable housing finance for construction and housing. The statement released by the central bank said that the government has allocated 33 billion rupees for payment of markup subsidy for financing over a period of 10 years, and has assured continuity of facility. The markup subsidy facility will be available through all banks and is divided in 3 tiers. This is the first time that 5% housing and construction loan target has been fixed for Pakistan's commercial banks, which will improve financing to 1% of gross domestic product from 0.2% at present.
One of the things that both our countries share is that people are so nervous about buying a house. Young people are stressed. They need to buy a house to feel stable. And this is not the same in some Western countries. No. So actually, can you comment a bit before we get into the impact of this policy on people? And I would also want to learn from you about how Chinese dealt with this. Can you comment on this basic need, like in society, and how the government and banks can come together to really solve this problem for people?
I think yes, you're right that in Pakistan, in China, actually if you were to look at the Asian culture, I think it's
really common.
The families.
It's the biggest stress.
Yeah, that becomes the concerns. I think it is a very good initiative of the government who were willing to listen to the voice, understand people's concerns, and also start to launch such initiatives. Because you see, I think the message is very clear to the market that the government wants to grow the construction industry, and because no matter how much you spend and invest in the construction industry or in the real estate, it has a positive impact on the upstream and downstream industry. So that will do very positive impact on the GDP growth and everything. I think that can be what we call it an item to knock the door of GDP growth.
Sure.
So I think that's a very good thought process of the government. And secondly is that probably Dr. Sajid would be in a better position to comment on this, is that for real industry, real estate industry, I'm not sure whether there was some consideration of not being properly documented, of money flow into such area. Exactly. But now if the government is doing such kind of program, the message is clear that if there's a market potential of doing investment in such industry, those should be properly documented. The third thing I'd just like to highlight is that HBL being the largest bank in Pakistan, we've already started to work with some of the big market players on such partnership in supporting their development projects, and also to benefit the people who, as you mentioned, who have the concerns, who want to live a better life.
Yeah.
I think that's the way
It
that
should be the
bank is.
priority to
Yes.
make. And again, Dr. Sajid, so how do you think the consumer demand for the housing sector has shifted because of this policy? And more importantly, I feel like, do many people in Pakistan know about this policy? Do they feel they will really
Yes.
benefit from it? Can you
When
elaborate?
the policy launched and there was a proper advertisements on television, all
Yeah.
channels, in the newspapers, all kind of newspapers are doing English, and the people, they know very well about these policies, and they just need to fill up the forms,
Yep.
deposit some initial amount because of show of their interest, and there are certain limitations of that, the age limit, the ID card, and all these kind of things. And people, once they have submitted, now, of course, not that more than 5 million people they applied for that, of course. Not everyone can get a house. So it's going to be a kind of a draw system, I guess.
Yeah.
And that people like those who are looking for. But on the other side, if this is the scheme that is offered by the government,
Yeah.
and the state bank is also being involved, the house building finance being involved. So the point is, like, this is an official, the government scheme that not everybody can not get the house from there.
Right.
But other sides, there are a lot of developing areas out of the cities where there are lots of housing schemes. If you look at the newspapers, if you look at the television advertisements, there are a bunch of advertisements everywhere around, and the people, they are investing. The people, they're buying the files only. If you just go in there, it's all land area, plain land area. But as soon as the companies are getting the amounts
Right.
from the investors or the buyers,
They can start the construction process.
and development, all these. So it takes like 3 to 5 years time, and I think it's a very
And
good
it's
option.
a normal, like, this is how it's been done in so many countries, in Pakistan as well. But I have a final question, because I think in Pakistan we really need to think that this is a profitable industry. And I feel very few people, for example, I also know personally some people in Karachi who were thinking of building houses, constructing houses, very affordable ones for people who are not, who don't have thick paychecks, who are the majority of the country actually. So can you talk a bit about how do we change that mindset that really affordable housing, which will cater to masses in a country of 210 million, 220 million, is profitable and should be prioritized?
People do not have the idea of buying a apartment or house,
Right.
because at that time your employer would normally give you some kind of somewhere to live, right?
Okay.
Some apartment or something. So even like in my father's age, they used to be given apartment. They used to be given
By the
housing
government.
by the government,
Yes.
by the employers,
Exactly.
state-owned companies,
Yes.
state-owned entities. It is a transition. There has to be a transition period.
With the expanding private sector.
Yeah, where the people's mindset will have to be changed.
Right.
In China, there was a reform. The reform is actually targets that there is going to be no apartment being given by the government, but your years of services can be kind of converted into the certain value, and then you put up some of your own additional money and you get an apartment. So I think that's what the way that China has gone through, but I think that culture-wise, in Asian culture, there's always a willingness of buying some property, so that particularly in the case of Pakistan, this property can be passed on generation by generation.
Yes, it's the biggest achievement of young people.
And
Your
the
house
moment
is
they
yours
buy a
forever.
house.
Yes,
Not
and
for 70 years.
Yeah, and most good point. And most importantly is that when the economy gets developed, when people, their income are actually getting increased, so they see more opportunity. They see there's going to be more self-motivation of looking at such an investment opportunity.
And
So
even
let's
the
hope-
long term, it's a good
Yeah.
investment opportunity also. Yeah.
So
people
this is, I think, definitely in Pakistan, some people, there was a wave of investing in real estate, and people benefited a lot from it. And now hopefully we will have a second wave. With that, we will close the second segment of our program.
They're going to be creation of more jobs. So I think the ultimate goal is to train the local Pakistani.
Around 500,000 foreign students from 196 countries and regions, they are studying in China.
Yes, there are scholarship programs, but we have to recognize that as of
cost
today,
is-
only limited students can get benefit of that. Actually, HBL works with some of the Chinese banks on their sponsored, these programs.
You're watching the Belt and Road Face to Face, and we're about to enter the third part of our program, culture. China is to further advance the opening up of education, promote educational and cultural exchanges, and introduce high-quality education resources from abroad, said Minister of Education Chen Baosheng during a recent event. China has become the largest source of international students in the world and Asia's largest destination for international students as well. The minister also urged efforts to deepen people-to-people and cultural exchanges between China and other countries in order to encourage student mobility around the world and reform the global education governance system. In addition, he called for strengthening high-end international technological exchanges and promoting integrated development of information technology and education. So, the first question we ask is, what lessons on education development can China and Pakistan learn from one another? Dr. Sajid, you are in the education sector.
A very interesting topic and a very broader topic, in fact. We can do
And
a
very
complete
relevant
program,
topic.
Very relevant topic.
Yeah.
First of all, I will like to talk about the Chinese perspective. Studying abroad for all international students is a dream, actually, wherever, So China is becoming the most increasing destination about the international students. And there are about 3,000 universities and institutions in China, those who are offering the undergraduates, graduates, postdoctorate and the PhD programs. Around 500,000 foreign students from 196 countries and regions, they are studying in China in different universities and academic institutions. About 60% of the international, out of this is Asian students.
Asian
as mentioned.
students.
And out of Asia, China is the biggest destination. And almost number one is at the Korean students, they're around 32,000 plus. The second one is a Thai student, Thailand, they're around 29,000 plus. And the Pakistani students are really just behind the Thai students, around 29,000.
Okay.
There's a very small gap between second and the third. So these are the three top ranking students. They are coming from Asian and Southeast Asian countries to China.
Yeah.
Out of these, the other side, even the Chinese government and the Chinese Ministry of Education, they're spending a lot to attract more international students, not only from Asian countries, European countries, and all other Middle East countries and African countries as well. The reason is that they want those international students come to China and see the Chinese image, the Chinese culture, and there are lots of international students learning Chinese languages.
Yes.
In different universities, even in Beijing. And in Beijing, there are 4 universities where the Chinese students are doing bachelor's and master's in Urdu language. This is one of the plus point. So, with the Pakistani point of view, and the Chinese government also, they are offering not only BRI scholarship, even CPEC scholarship. My son is studying in Beihang University.
On a
He's
CPEC
doing
scholarship.
On a CPEC scholarship. He's doing electronics engineering for 4 years English taught programs. And is pretty excited and pretty happy about that. So, this is a very good destination. If you're talking about the Pakistani point of view, there are around more than 60,000 Chinese people living and working in Pakistan. In Islamabad, International Islamic University is the topmost university attracting most Chinese students. One of the dean of the faculties is a very good friend of mine. Last time when we met, he told me about that they have established a special section for only the Chinese students. So it means at both sides, but on the Chinese side, there are more Pakistani students that are coming. And Chinese universities, they accepted the Pakistani students are proved to be very intelligent, very smart, and very hardworking, as compared to other international students. So this is what the reason we don't show off.
We don't show
and
off.
this is what the reason that the Pakistani students, when they graduated, they have very good opportunities even to go back to work in Pakistani sector with the CPEC-related organizations, or even in work in Chinese companies, entrepreneurs here.
Ms. Chung, for you, I really want to know that how do you think, first of all, as a Chinese person, you see that more and more Pakistanis are now looking for opportunities to get better quality education in China.
Yes.
And it's not just Pakistanis, it's people all over the world, developed countries, developing countries, everyone. So as a Chinese, how do you see this? And how specifically can both of our countries further benefit from this opportunity?
Yeah, I think obviously Dr. Sajid, he's an expert in education, but I just wanted to share some of my personal views. One is that I think yes, we're now having big numbers of Pakistani students studying in China and also vice versa. I think if there can be more a kind of enhanced interaction between the education authorities of the two countries to make sure that the messages can be sent to the families that the higher education certificate, diploma, everything is, there's going to be a mechanism as how to well recognize the certificate that is going to be granted to these students in both countries. So because eventually when they go to the job market, the way that how the diploma is going to be recognized is going to be important.
Will make a big difference.
Will make a big difference. So that's one thing. The second thing I think is that maybe both of the countries can look at possibilities of doing more exchange programs between the universities. Yes, there are scholarship programs, but we have to recognize that as of today, only limited students can get benefit of that. Actually, HBL works with some of the Chinese banks on their sponsored, these programs. So we are sending some of our employees to China. The idea is they'll get proper understanding on the Chinese market, and then they will be able to benefit on HBL's journey in China as well.
Excellent.
True.
So I think if some of the short-term exchange program can be organized and can be arranged, that will benefit the students from both countries of understanding from the cultural perspective and also their own academic perspectives on the understandings. The third thing is that maybe what we can look at is the vocational training. I think now as we all know that there are different CPEC projects being set up. So those are the projects, be it power station, road, bridge, ports, airports. They're going to be creation of more jobs. So I think the ultimate goal is to train the local Pakistani to be able to run those facilities. There I do think there's going to be huge opportunity where these Pakistani population can get on-the-job training in Pakistan and also send them to China, to some of the facilities that has already been set up here, and to understand better how do they maintain those facilities and run it more efficiently.
And I think this is a big priority under CPEC, especially since we transitioned in 2018. There was a conversation again about what are the sectors to focus on. Dr. Sajid, very quickly, we're so short on time, but this is an important topic for your insight. How do you think Pakistan can prepare its students for the future of CPEC? What kind of vocational training? One idea is to send Pakistani students to China, which is being done and it needs to be done more. But what about setting up vocational training centers in Pakistan? How feasible is that?
In fact, in Pakistan, there are already lots of vocational training institutes, including colleges, not proper universities, who they are offering the BTEC and other vocational training programs. And also on the other side, the government's vision is about to enhance or encourage the Pakistani youth to the high-tech and the skill development programs. So Hunarmand, what is this called? Hunarmand Pakistan and Kamyab Jawan programs are the part of these.
Skilled and Kamyab Jawan means successful youth.
These programs are basically the part of that. And as we discussed, like Chinese, foreign students population is increasing, especially in terms of the past decade. And it's a huge number. They are love to come. Pakistani students can also come to the vocational institutions in China. And there's a huge potential. Once they finish the degrees, they can go back, they can start up their own small businesses and contribute to the economy. But the point is, at what scale that they need to learn it? Not only because of the education, there are some exchange programs. We already have the cultural youth exchange programs. But we need to work more on those programs. Doesn't mean that the student has to physically move on those countries, we can do on online even then system.
We are in the age of COVID.
This is one school in Pakistan, this is one school and institution vocation in China.
Yeah.
Why don't we just collaborate, the teachers communication with
Yes.
each other? What you have expertise, just share your ideas.
Cut costs as well.
What you have expertise, just share. I mean, it's very simple. It's save time, same like costs and I mean, all these kind of things. It's very simple thing.
Yeah.
So vocational programs, distance learning programs. Chinese Open University is the top #1 university in the world.
Yep.
Ilham Iqbal Open University is the 3rd number in the world. Like we have a number of students there. So I started even a project about establishing the 5th Confucius program in Pakistan. We're still working on that. So I mean, these kind of programs can really help and enhance a lot between the vocational and skill development program.
With that, thank you so much, and thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.